Hello, everybody out there in Internet Land, and welcome to another episode of Voices from the Grid. And if this is your first time listening, welcome. I hope you enjoy your stay. I'm your host for this evening, Pink Ranger Brian Massey, being accompanied this episode by Blue Ranger Michael Lindenbaum. What's going on, dude?
Hey, man, it's going good. It's Zeo time now.
It's been Zeo time for a while.
It's been Zeo time for technically one episode. This is the second episode of the season.
Yeah, that's right. I completely forgot about that. So let's not waste too much time on this because we've already gotten through the first two episodes. Zeo beginning, which was a payoff of 10 episodes where we got to deal with alien rangers and water scarcity and rangers being turned back into kids, and now we're kind of back into the status quo of teenagers with attitude and tightly colored spandex. Don't tell Dr. K I said that. So let's go ahead and, for crying out loud, set up our targets and be shooting stars today because we've got 3 episodes to talk about. The first episode today, Mike, is called The Shooting Star. And Ranger Wiki, as you pointed out, and I noticed when I was taking my notes, doesn't really have a synopsis for this episode.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's non-existent. So to give you the, and I'll give you the opportunity to do this if you want to, but I can give a synopsis real fast as well.
Go for it.
Okay, so long story short, Tanya is feeling like she doesn't really fit in with the gang, even though she's dating the captain of the baseball team. And there's the whole crux of this episode is that her not boyfriend, Sean, has notes that he's going to use to cheat on a test. And Tanya is like, whoa, hold on, man. I don't vibe with that. And also, meanwhile, Bulk and Skull have finally got their motorcycle up and running again. And somehow, some way, with all of this, we get a monster of the week that happens to be a starfish.
Awesome. I'm so enthralled.
So, let's not waste any time for our first episode, The Shooting Star. And I'll just kind of go into it. I'll talk a little bit more about the episode in detail, and I'll also bring up some questions. And feel free to stop in if you got something you want to talk about too, Mike.
All right. Well, I'm just going to start right here and just go.
What was that?
That was a can of whoop ass because I know I'm going to be opening one.
Oh man. It's
on a particular person called Sean and Tanya.
Oh my god. Yeah, they're a little obnoxious.
And also I really wanted to drink some Mountain Dew Baja Blast.
Oh, Baja Blast is the greatest. I had some bottles in the fridge, and I was gonna ration them. This is so off topic,
everyone knows we record this show out of order, anyways. So it's like,
yeah, who cares? I had 4 bottles, 20-ounce bottles, in the fridge, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna ration them over the weekend, and I am officially out of Baja Blast.
So I bought a 12-pack of the cans.
Nice.
When I was at Walmart. I can find Baja Gold, which is the pineapple one, but I can't find the other one, which I believe is called Baja Red, which is the mango one. But I've also found the Baja Blast energy drink.
Ew.
So I found that. I'm going to try that eventually. I don't know when, but I will.
All right.
But anyways, that's our Baja Blast conversation because we get it all the time at Taco Bell, which is one of the biggest reasons to go to Taco Bell.
Yep. This episode is brought to you by Baja Blast. Not really. Mountain Dew, please sponsor us. So, going back into the episode. It's been a few episodes since Aisha left and Tanya replaced her as the Yellow Ranger. Tanya seems to think she's having issues fitting in, and she still feels like the new girl on campus, even though she's dating the captain of the baseball team.
For somebody who literally just popped up out of nowhere, from being a child in Africa to being a teenager in Angel Grove, in a matter of I wouldn't even say days.
Yeah.
Like, she is already like dating a star athlete at the high school, and her fashion sense is better, and she's not like, and Ben has said this multiple times, but how is Tanya not freaking out over every little thing?
Like, holy crap, what is that, a phone? Like, something like that.
What's a school?
Yeah. Like, and this is, and we literally haven't even gotten into the major part of this episode yet, and I already have a major question to ask you. Do you think Tanya already is showing signs of suffering the same problem that Kat suffered when she replaced Kim, where it's like, okay, you're technically a replacement character, but like all we're really doing is we're adding a little bit of a personal flourishment to you, but we're literally putting you in the place where this character left off.
I think Kat has more character to her than Tanya does. Yeah. Because at least when they introduced Tanya, they took the time to flesh out a character for the most part. And I know we say mean things about the Kat character because at the end of the day, once they did the switch over from her to, from Kim to her, she just kind of just slotted into the Kim spot. Tanya didn't have any of that. So they're kind of scrambling, creating a character with development which doesn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, like she's lacking something very important, which happens to be a personality.
And a proper introduction to introduce said character instead of, oh, hey, here's this kid. Oh, by the way, you're a teenager now. Huh? What?
Yeah, like I'm at this point, when I was watching as a kid, at this point, I'm still during this episode looking at her going, who the hell are you?
Where did you come from?
So what winds up happening in this episode, like I mentioned beforehand, is the major crux on this story is Tanya and Sean, again, captain of the baseball team. They have a disagreement about Sean using a cheat sheet on a test. I guess he somehow stole the answer list from a teacher, which, how do they not notice that? I mean, they literally notice when Bulk and Skull sneeze the wrong way. How do they not notice that an answer list is missing?
I don't know, but we also know that athletes are known for getting away with a lot more.
Yeah. Man, we were having fun. So Tanya offers to help him study, but puts her foot down when Sean refuses at first to not use the cheat sheet. We then later see, spoilers, that he turns in the cheat sheet and actually takes the test regularly. But what are your thoughts on that scene at the batting cage, and how does it set up Tanya as a character moving forward? Do you think that this is them trying then to give her a personality?
Or... I definitely think it is them trying to give her a personality. She's trying to play like the, I don't want to say high ground, but definitely like a moral character.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I get it. I can respect that because it's like, yeah, okay, cheating on tests is wrong. I'm pretty sure any of us have cheated on a test before.
I haven't.
I have.
What are you talking about?
I have.
Oh my God, you're a horrible person.
I know, I am a horrible person, but I also wanted to pass the class.
Fair enough.
But,
yeah.
But the thing is, though, is that like at the point of your question, though, is like they're trying to create Tanya as this high moral person who goes like, you can't cheat, you can't, do that. She's trying to be like the, like a high, like a goody two shoes, high and mighty type character, and and that's what they're trying to create with Tanya, which I think is the wrong thing to do with her, simply because that's how the entire team should be as a whole, anyways, like the goody two shoes. But at the same time, like Ben has said it several times, we've said it several times, Tanya should be the one that's like freaking out over every little thing.
Like, I don't get how she's only been around for maybe 2 weeks tops.
I wouldn't say that. I would say like 3-4 days.
I'm being generous. Just to account for time to actually get into the rigmarole of This is what a classroom is. This is what, state mandated testing is. This is what, a textbook is. And now all of a sudden, she's sitting there talking about the morals of cheating on a test versus not cheating on a test to this guy. And it's really weird because I feel like this would have been, this feels like a plot point that like Aisha would have had. This is something that Aisha probably would have done. But because, Karen Ashley left and we have to put somebody again in her place, and I'm not going to try and focus on this too much, but like it's trying to give Tanya character, but it also comes off as, yeah, but we didn't go back and rewrite this. So that's just me. Meanwhile, the real heroes of the show, Broken Skull, are sticking with their conditions on letting Goldar and Rito stay with them and put them through the paces when it comes to making sure their shed is cleaned up, even doing the glove finger test dust thing. And they then go for a test drive on their new motorcycle. Do you think at this point Bulk and Skull are being a little too harsh on Goldar and Rito, or have we not reached it yet?
With the amount of crap that those two guys have been put through, I don't blame them.
Yeah, you don't blame Bulk and Skull?
Yeah. Like they have been terrorized literally by Putties and Goldar and Rito and Rita and Zed and monsters. Like, they finally got these two guys who have amnesia, and they're like, yeah, we're going to be jerks to you guys because you guys have been jerks to us. I don't blame them.
Yeah, I don't. It's hard for me to put to like wag a finger at them and say like, oh, you guys are doing too much. At least not yet. I mean, like, they're definitely enjoying the perks of having servants, I guess is the word to use here. But I mean, you can certainly see that they're starting to be a little smug about it. Anyways, Bulk and Skull then go on a ride on their motorcycle and they get ambushed by Cogs, but they don't, because it turns out that the Cogs are actually looking for the Zeozords, which happen to be within a 5-mile radius of where Bulk and Skull are driving around. And my question is, how does King Mondo know where the Zeozords are? Because I watched the episode. It's not really explicitly stated, except for that King Mondo was kind of boasting, oh, I can't believe that you thought I wouldn't know where they are.
I mean, he's a machine, right?
Yeah.
He probably hacked into the command center.
Good point. Well, then why wouldn't he just do that every episode? Or did... whatever.
Because that's too much of a plot convenience.
Yeah. So this episode is notable for being the first appearance of the Zeo Megazord. So what are your thoughts on this particular Megazord? I'm not talking about the Super Zeo Megazord, which is coming later, but this one in particular. What are your thoughts on it? Its appearance, how it works, like... I know that my major question here, too, is does this design work for Power Rangers, considering how an O-Ranger, these were emblematic of previous ancient civilizations like Egypt and Mesopotamia. How does this work for Power Rangers as well, or does it?
I like the pretty star in the center. I mean, in all seriousness, though, I mean, looking at it, and I pulled up a picture so I can look at it.
I'm literally looking at my Zord from 95, 96.
But, like, I'm looking at it right now, and, like, I see what they're going with. It's, like, it gives the identity of the Rangers, because it shows off, like, the star is on, the Red Ranger, the pill, as I like to call it, is on the, Yellow Ranger, the triangles, the or the Blue Ranger, and then you have the, square for the Green Ranger.
Are you talking about the Super Zeo Megazord?
Oh, I think I am. Yeah, I'm looking at that.
Yeah, you're just no. I'm talking about the Zeo Megazord with like the lion. And
hold on.
The Eastern Island like.
Hold on.
Hand.
Oh, there it is. It gave me the wrong one. Oh, that thing? I like the other one better.
Oh my god. Oh wow.
This is hilarious. I'm looking at the wrong one. Nice helmet.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, in a way, it still works because you have the identity of the Ranger still in it.
Yeah.
Because, like, you can see resemblances, and as we end up finding out later, you have battle helmets for this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which is actually kind of cool. But
I think that's a really cool gimmick.
Yeah, so it's like, I mean, it does its job. Is it Power Rangers? Yeah, of course it is. It's a freaking giant Zord that got combined through other Zords. It's like, that's Power Rangers.
Yeah. Well, I guess my question more or less then, because again, O-Ranger uses this concept of ancient civilization like powers, like was it Choriki powers? I think is the term in Japanese. Ancient powers, and obviously they didn't go with that for Zeo, even though they still kind of went with like, hey, we've got this crystal that has powers that constantly get stronger exponentially over time. So there is kind of a parallel there, but not exactly. So,
but don't get it around water.
Yeah, don't get it around water. The Turbo movies come in eventually. It just, I don't know, like especially with like the Easter Island heads for the feet. Do you think that concept gets lost in translation? Because I think it kind of does, and I don't like when, and I get the Power Rangers is its own thing, but there are times when stuff like that happens, and I'm a little sad that like things kind of get lost when we translate it or we adapt it. You know,
I think when you're a kid, you don't care.
No.
And then, like for us, because we do like watch the Sentai and stuff like that, and we are adults watching a child's show, over analyzing it. Yes, I could see where those arguments are, but at the end of the day, you look at what they're trying to do in regards to this one, and it's just, you know, it's a kid's show. They're doing what they're doing. So
yeah. So I mean, it works. I guess then what I can then say in regards to that is, you know, it does get lost in translation into Power Rangers from Super Sentai. However, it is kind of cool then, and I do kind of like this too about CEO in particular. When you go back to O-Ranger, finding out all the little surprises and like all the little things that like they just could not show, like how like violent the cogs were, and also, you know, you get to find out, oh, there's actually a reason why a lot of those things look like that, like the swords look like that in O-Ranger. So if you're listening to this and you like CEO and you want like a little more context in the way things work, go check out O-Ranger 2. It's free on Shop Factory. The one thing I don't like about this Megazord, though, is how cramped the cockpit looks.
I mean, you don't have to be in it, so it's not a big factor to you.
No, it's not. But like let's compare this to the Dino Megazord for a second. Like that thing had like lounge space. It felt like they could like put their feet up on the console and like stretch out, and there'd still be room for everybody to do their work. And here it's like, if you fart the wrong way, it's like everybody's gonna have a bad time because it's a compact compared to that, you know. Did that bother you at all, or like did it look weird to you at all?
Nope, didn't bother me at all.
Okay, well, all right, moving on then.
Especially the fact that I'm probably the one that's going to be unleashing the farce that makes everyone uncomfortable.
How dare you, sir? So what are your thoughts on this monster? It's known as the Staroid Monster, which it just kind of shows up, and it gets taken down by the Zeo Megazord like really fast, and it's not really explained what happens with this thing. I do like, though, that it can regrow itself like an actual starfish, and that we also do get to see the individual Zords in action, which is kind of typical for like the first appearance of the Zords as well. Did this monster do anything for you?
It looks cool.
Yeah.
But it's not memorable.
No.
It's kind of like that thing, we had just recorded with Ben the holiday episode, and we talked about Leaky Faucet.
Yeah.
And like Leaky Faucet is a character that came back. And you usually don't see monsters come back in Power Rangers unless they're actually popular. Like a Pudgy Pig or a pumpkin rapper dude and whatnot. So it's like, but the Star Monster, it looks cool. It's not memorable. It served its job of, hey, you have to introduce this Megazord.
Yeah. I guess what kind of gets me is because, again, Toei's the one who makes all these suits for Sentai that then get brought over for Power Rangers for use on like American footage. How disheartening must it be to be a monster designer where like I'm going to design this thing and it's going to take all this time and all this money to make it the suit only for it to appear in one episode?
I mean, we should ask Finster.
Yeah.
See how he feels. He's the one who makes most of the monsters anyway.
Get in here. Come in, Mike Cleveland. Yeah. I mean, I think because I as of recording this we're in June. Power Verticon's in August as we're recording this. And I think that there's going to be some people from production there. I would love to ask that question. Like how do you reuse parts of that? Do you break it down and like reuse the? Anyways, so what winds up happening at the end is like the Rangers win, and Tanya winds up convincing Sean to turn in the test notes and hey, let's study, right? And then end of the episode, Vic and Skull get their motorcycle confiscated, I think, by Lieutenant Stone. Did they deserve that? Is this another injustice for Vic and Skull?
In regards to the motorcycle?
Yeah.
Oh no. Rephrase the question, please.
So what it feels like is Lieutenant Stone, and I know that they're getting it loaded onto a truck to probably take it to a station. Like the motorcycle breaks down at a certain point, or they run out of gas. But I got the impression, because Lieutenant Stone was there, because God knows he has to be everywhere that Book and Skull are at this point. He's like their chaperone. It almost felt like he was confiscating the motorcycle from them because he found out, what are you doing with this motorcycle? And he's like really pissy about it.
Yeah, Lieutenant Stone's gonna Lieutenant Stone.
Yeah. God, he has quickly become my least favorite character in Power Rangers. But yeah, that was Shooting Star. A good lesson for people who want to cheat on a test. Don't, unless you're the captain of a baseball team. Then hey, I guess you can get away with it. Cheating never prospers, and cheaters never prosper until they do. Let's move on to Target Rangers. Did you have any other questions for Shooting Star or anything else you wanted to add to that?
Nope.
Before I move on? Cool. So we didn't really get a synopsis for Target Rangers either on Ranger Wiki because I guess people just haven't been bothered to go back to write stuff for Zeo, which is fine. But Target Rangers is basically Rocky Wants to Have Fun Part 2.
But Rocky just wants to have fun.
Yeah. And this time he's building the game with a... what's her name? It's Jessica, I believe, right? Yeah, Jennifer. He's building this with this woman named Jennifer, who is totally a sophomore in high school. And what winds up happening is the freaking the Machine Empire steal their plans for this video game, and before that even happens, they're building a monster out in a junkyard that somehow has missiles attached to it and looks just like the monster in their game. Because and they, with the power of a 3.5-inch floppy disk, they create a monster that can fight against the Power Rangers.
Those floppy disks, they be deadly, man.
You know what? Back in the day, 3.5-inch floppies, they could change the fate of the world. This is like, it was like the nuclear football. It was, like a virus that could be uploaded to a database, or it could, potentially expose like fraud. I mean, those things were super powerful, and now I wouldn't even use them as a coaster. The title of this is kind of appropriate, by the way, because Target is the place where I wind up buying a lot of my Lightning Collection figures. How about you?
I haven't stepped foot in a Target in months because they're expensive, and
yeah.
And honestly, I would only really go there for hockey cards, which I haven't not been buying in a while, just simply because the pandemic had screwed up the release order or the release dates of all the hockey cards. So I just kind of reach out to a friend and go, "Hey, I need these hockey cards. Can you help me out, please?"
Right on. I've been kind of doing the same with, again, Lightning Collection figures, because we won't get anything for a while, and then all of a sudden there's like a million in space pinks just warming the shelves.
Target's just expensive in general, and like there's really nothing there that I need to get from them that I can't get from anywhere else.
That's a good point. Target do be pricey. So fun fact, and I did get this from Ranger Wiki, apparently, according to the end credits, this episode was filmed around December 14th, 1995, which was about 2.5 weeks after Mighty Morphin Rangers in Reverse aired, which was the last episode of the Jew Ranger suits being used. So we started off this episode with the Cogs building silo out in a junkyard. Why do they need to do this? Like, don't they create monsters on their base? Like, they have a moon base full of...
I like it, though, because it's different. Like, we always see the monsters created up on the moon or at the palace or whatever. Or, like, some random thing gets, like, turned into a monster or whatever. This is, like, the first time we've actually seen him go, "Hey, go to the dump, grab a bunch of stuff, and build a monster."
Now, let me ask you this, because there's no way that, unless Angel Grove just operates entirely differently than the rest of reality, there's no way that they had like missiles just sitting in a junkyard, right? Like, this thing's got like nuclear missiles or like ballistic missiles like in its shoulders. Do you think they were spent from like Nasada from in space and like, hey, we're gonna put the shells here, or were they just outfitted by King Mondo after the fact? It's like, oh, you guys need some firepower.
So, I'm completely wrong when I say this.
Okay.
But there's a deleted scene where the Cogs break into Nasada and steal a whole bunch of missiles and then take it to the dump.
And that's your in-space cameo 2 years before it even happened. So we get this intro where Rocky's helping this girl named Jennifer from his class make a video game for a science project. Again, because Rocky just wants to have fun. And she's not happy with it just yet.
Well, I wouldn't be either, because Rocky's the one who's playing having all the fun and not me, you know?
Yeah. So a couple things happen here. First and foremost, Rocky does not know how to flirt.
It's okay. It's okay. Neither do I.
Well, it's okay, Mike. We love you anyways. He tries to ask her to this dance and strikes out over and over again because she's focused on the game, which, okay, I don't blame her for that. But in order to then reset the game, she says that she's going to wipe the main hard drive.
Sure. Let's do that.
Yeah, a little inside baseball. Nah, I'm not going to do that. But yeah,
no, it's okay to say it. So while we're recording Zio, let's just address it now. everyone knows that we record this show out of order. So we had recorded like 13 episodes, and I don't edit all the episodes right away. I usually edit them in one big session because we have the time to do it. And I was backing everything up onto my external and then doing like a cleanup on the system, like cleaning out temp files and doing a defrag so my laptop can run more efficient. And for whatever reason, the folder that held all the VFTG episodes that needed to get moved over for editing never got moved over. Even though I did do a move over for it. I remember clicking and dragging it over into the external. And
so long story short, that's why we had to record Christmas episode.
Well, no. So there are 6 episodes that we had to re-record, and you'll know which ones those are because they'll probably be little pot shots at me. This one and the other 2 episodes where it's just Brian and I, those are fresh recordings. It's just It's just happening after the fact.
And it just so happens to be that there's a very simple thing that happens that's mimicking real life. So I had to call it out. Which, I mean, no use crying over spilt milk, but at the same time, yeah.
But the thing is, though, is that I didn't purposely go in and just wipe the hard drive for the sake of wiping the hard drive. Like, I actually went in I backed up, like, thousands of files.
In what reality do you reset a game by wiping the hard drive on your computer, even if it's like a freaking Windows 95, not even 4 gigabyte, 56K dial-up, beige piece of crap? Like, wiping your hard drive means you don't have a... What? God, I'm just watching this. I'm imagining all the kids that heard that and went, oh, that's how I do this, and went home that had computers at home, and they wiped their hard drive, and then their dad's just like, what did you do? I'm going to lose my job.
Yeah.
Like, that had to have happened at least once, right? If that happened to you, please tweet us at VFTG_PR. Please, I have to hear that story, because, God, that's hilarious and sad at the same time. Also, that's not how computers work. How boring does this game look, by the way? It kind of looks like, it's like the most boring fighter ever, and you have to solve, like, school problems in order to land a punch or something. So,
it's Number Munchers, but worse.
Yeah. It's a worse Number Munchers. It's like if you wanted to do a Hadouken in Street Fighter, and they were like, okay, what year did the Revolutionary War begin? It's like, first and foremost, that's Guile's character, right? He's the American dude. Why am I getting, like, ask me something about Japan, but also, what? Also, just a little aside, I love Broken Skull saluting Stone with the little rascal's chin thing and then the Three Stooges eye poke block. But going back to this, Jennifer says, hey, I'm going to activate the security code so no one can get into the system while we're gone. And somebody actually pointed this out in a forum. Hey, this is a public access computer. This isn't the FBI. Why are you doing this?
Well, I will say this. If they're at school, most school computers you actually have to log into. Like, you have a student ID that you log in with. So the idea that she's locking the computer so no one can get into it does make sense.
Sure.
Like, I remember in middle school and high school, if you use, like, the computer labs or the computer in the library, you had to log into your student ID in order to use the computer. So it's like, and it's also, when you go into it, it's your stuff. It's not something that somebody else is working on. So it's like, it actually makes sense.
Well, what doesn't make sense, though, is that she's locking the computer so nobody can get into their accounts either. So it doesn't seem like they don't have personal accounts on this computer. because again, I guess nobody in the '90s thought that far ahead when they had computer, like, which is complete horse crap, by the way. Because I remember even when I was a kid, and like I was in a computer lab in like third, fourth grade, and we had a Macintosh 2. We had accounts, so obviously this is a fundamental lack of understanding how computers work by Angel Grove High, and B, this is this is her just being like, well, nobody can access this.
So I will say this. Power Rangers is a hell of a drug.
Yes. Where nothing makes sense and the rules don't. It's like, who's lying? She hands, and what winds up driving the plot forward here is that Rocky convinces her to hand him the password to the computer, and then somehow Mondo gets the idea to use their game to program Silo, the junkyard robot. And I'll just go ahead and power through this. The cog gets it down to seal a password and upload the game into him using a 3.5 floppy. And it's at this point I noticed something because, again, we've been recording these out of order. There are no unmorphed fight scenes in Zeo.
This is true.
It's weird. Like, Rocky sees a few cogs, and the first thing he does is morph. Whereas with the Tangas and, like, the Z-Putties and the other putties, like, Jason and then Rocky would just fight them in civilian guard, but in Zeo, for some reason, they just don't do that.
Well, with the Tangas, they technically did morph, but they didn't do a full morph. They morphed into the ninja outfits.
From the movie.
Yeah.
But not really.
And then they would morph into the actual Ranger outfits when, like, the monster appears.
Yeah.
So they did, like, a partial morph when the Tangas came around.
So, but it just, things just not make it, like, they've made choices in Zeo, and I'm not sure that they were the right ones, but we'll have plenty of time to talk about that in another recording. So we've already seen in our previous episode, the Zeo Megazord gets introduced, and so Billy is talking with Alpha, and he says that, hey, we're getting ready to test out the battle helmets, which are, like, every Ranger gets to be in the front seat when they have the helmet on. And, like, Zeo Ranger 1 has a cannon on there. Zeo Ranger 2 has 2 cannons. Zeo Ranger 3 has a pyramid head. Zeo Ranger 4 has a bull head. And then the 5th Ranger is the standard Ranger. And there's this little line I really loved where Billy says, man, we really could have used these back in the old days. And Alpha retorts with, yeah, it's a shame you had to get by with bows and arrows. And I thought that was adorable. And it was a neat little kind of throwback to Kim, too. What do you think about the battle helmets?
I kind of touched base on it when we talked about the previous episode, but I thought it was unique because it kind of gave each Ranger its own thing, because as we get into later seasons, specific Rangers would get specific power-ups.
Yeah.
And this was like the first time we actually got to see power-ups for the Rangers, albeit for the Megazord. So it was kind of cool seeing that. It was kind of also, in a way, a precursor to what we would see in later seasons.
Yeah. And I mean, like, the first kind of power-up we see is obviously the Red Ranger get the Green Ranger shield, but I don't even know if that really counts. Like,
I wouldn't count that simply because it's the Green Ranger handing it over to the Red Ranger or to the Black Ranger when Zach wore the one episode. Yeah. Like, that doesn't really count because of the fact that it's like, that technically belongs to the Green Ranger. He's just handing it over. And it's not an actual power-up. Whereas, like, this is an actual power-up.
Yeah.
And we're not gonna count the ever so fabulous metallic armor either.
I have plenty of opinions about those and also the figures that are out right now. Anyways.
Which, by the way, I still contend to this day that the Vegas Golden Knights, when they did their alternate jerseys, the gold ones, that they had the Power Rangers metallic armor in mind because it is glitterific just like those suits.
Yeah, girl. So, wrapping up this little episode, or getting into the main finale of it. So this is the first time the Rangers get to meet King Mondo in person, and Silo was made to grow without much of a ground fight. Does this make sense to you, given the upgrades the bots got in the beginning, and also the upgrades that the Zeozords are receiving? Because it does feel like they just kind of avoided the ground fight to play with the Zords this episode.
I mean, you got to show off the toys.
Oh yeah.
I mean that's the trade-off. You gotta show off those toys. So I'm not overly upset about that at all because, yeah. I mean, yeah, for a monster like Silo, we should have gotten a legit actual battle. But again, toys.
Yeah, I do wonder if the Ranger has a fight scene that just didn't get used because maybe there was a Japanese actress or actor that was in the middle of the fight or something that they just couldn't use the footage. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
In the middle of this, we then find out that Harry Carey's favorite planet, the sun, gets involved in the plot. And Silo asks, "How hot is the sun?" We're about to find out. He chains the Zeo Megazord up and flies it to the surface of the sun. The battle helmets are used to help them escape the gravitational pull of the sun. And this is where they got things a little weird, and I think that there was a typo here. The green helmet is supposedly used to break the gravitational pull, but all it does is break the chains, and then the blue helmet later on is able to use its power to lift Silo off the ground. So shouldn't that be the gravity helmet then?
I was reading that too, where they made the mistake. It's probably how it should have been, but I think they screwed it up in the script.
I mean, it's not the last time that'll happen in Power Rangers. Certainly not this season, at least. But yeah, I thought that scene at least was really cool. And I just love seeing the effects on the heat waves coming from the sun. Even if that thing would have been melted by the time that they got free, I think. But anyways, wrapping up, what are your thoughts on the final scene with Jennifer and Rocky? Does Rocky come off as a jerk for asking her to the dance again when she's already said no?
It's actually interesting because so Rocky tries again. She gives him hell.
Yeah.
But then he actually stands up for himself. And as a result of him actually standing up for himself, they actually make up, and she says she can't take that she has to take a rain check on the dance because she actually can't go. But at least it's better than how they could have ended it, where she gives him hell and just storms off, and he just kind of stands there looking like an idiot.
Yeah, but, Rocky just strikes out. She started smiling when he was clapping back at her, and I was like,
yeah, because Rocky grew a spine.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, I just hope that people don't watch that and get the message that oh well, if you get told no, just ask again later, because...
Well, I mean, you have to keep in mind, she had, throughout the entire episode, had been pretty mean to him. Because he lost the password, and it got in the hands of Mondo, and she didn't really trust him to start with, and, all that stuff leading up to that point. Yeah. They built up to that moment in the show.
I mean, fair enough. So I guess we get kind of a happy ending. It's hey, Rocky's got a date, I guess, but we never hear from Jennifer again, so...
Yeah, I guess she never took him up on the rain check.
It's kind of like Zach's girlfriend from season 1. She shows up in the finale, and there's this whole thing with, Valentine's Day, and she's just never seen again. I can't even remember her name. That's how much of an impression she left. But for crying out loud, let's get on the fire for crying out loud. So, and this might be a little bit of a premonition for the Christmas episode, I guess. But yeah, this episode should have just been called Two Rangers and a Baby. Tommy and Kat are in a whatever class. What kind of class was it?
It was like a
home economics or something.
No, hold on. I forget what the name of the class was. It's not home economics. It wouldn't be that.
Yeah. Relationships 101. I don't know. Maybe that could have helped Rocky last episode. But
I don't remember the name of the class, but it's definitely not home economics. It had to be like some other type of class or something like that. There's no way. But it said that they had to be married for the weekend.
Yep, and they had to be married for the weekend, and instead of classes like that where you would be handed an egg, Kat gets this brilliant idea to add a baby to spice things up. Okay. And Tommy, or rather JDF, does his best. Oh man, babies really kind of gross me out this whole episode. Despite the fact that by this point I think he was already a dad himself, but that's behind the scenes stuff. And what winds up happening is that King Mondo basically gives the creator of My Hero Academia an idea for President Mike when he was a baby, and decides to make the kid scream every time he cries, and it causes all these like earthquakes and like sound damage to happen. And yeah, that's this episode. So let's go ahead and begin. So it starts off with Bulk and Skull, again, the real heroes of the show, who are late for a very important date with Lieutenant Stone. And they kind of wind up on like Funny Farm, I guess. And we get to hear what the Bulk and Skull theme would sound like if it were a hoedown. Lieutenant Stone's trying to eat a burger. He's trying to open up like a thing of not ketchup, but catsup. And they crash into Stone's table with their motorcycle, which inexplicably they don't show the actual footage of the crash. However, but they instead fade to black. Then they show the carnage, which this should have realistically killed Lieutenant Stone, but in Power Rangers, nobody actually dies. They just get really big boo-boos. And the special assignment that he had threatened Bulk and Skull with is handing out textbooks. So I wanted to give you the opportunity, if you wanted to talk about this scene in particular. What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? The floor is yours.
I love how Lieutenant Stone has no idea how ketchup works.
Yeah. I'm pretty certain that the cap is still on there.
Does Lieutenant... I mean, first off, ketchup is a very disgusting condiment.
How dare you, sir?
Mustard is the superior condiment, okay?
Okay, no. Okay, podcast is over. Get out of here.
No. So first off, the first mistake that Lieutenant Stone made was to pick up a bottle of ketchup. It just made it worse that he doesn't know how ketchup works.
His first problem was getting, again, catsup instead of ketchup.
And then Skull goes off-road for a very dirty adventure, which I actually kind of enjoyed. And then Bulk and Skull is in charge of textbook distribution. I mean, if I want to be in my own personal hell, I would agree that textbook distribution would be probably it right there.
Yeah, and inexplicably, I guess they're still students, but they're not because they're on the police. Like, they never resolved how that worked, and it just makes no sense to me. Like, are they still in class or are they not?
I think here's the thing. It's so... They really convoluted this in season 3, but at the end of the day, I do think that Bulk and Skull are still in school. They just don't show it anymore. Because the junior police stuff is supposed to be after school, it's supposed to be like an after school activity thing. Like, you know how like in school you would have like, you know, the sports clubs and, you know, chess club or whatever, like all these clubs they yeah, like actually JRRTC is actually a perfect example. Like, that is an after school program. So one would assume that that is what it's supposed to be, an after school program. So that's how I kind of view it, even though they never really show it in that manner on the actual show itself.
That's something that, because I do believe they're going to be, the actors are going to be at Power Morphicon for them. I kind of want to ask their opinion on that. And I know that, you know, they might just be like, dude, it was a show, whatever, but I kind of want to know. I kind of want to know what the working theory there was. Like, were you guys still in school, or did you guys drop out, or was this like, oh, well, this is your school now, is that you are police? Because we're training you to eventually not be junior cops, but instead just be cops.
Yeah.
So, the main plot point of the story is that Tommy's teacher, who I was listening to. Fun fact: I have a 4x3R, just regular TV, like an old school TV. I have a CRTV hooked up to a PS2 that I watch my DVDs on for Power Rangers. When I watch Power Rangers to get these notes, I am doing it very old school, low techy. I don't have an HD TV. I have one downstairs for gaming, but I don't have an HD TV upstairs with me when I'm taking these notes. So when I was listening to the name of this teacher, I swear I kept hearing it was Mr. Toddler. Was his name?
Let's see here.
And I was like, you know what? I guess that makes sense. If this is the assignment that they give him, I'm not going to question it.
So interestingly, they don't have a thing about who the cast is.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Do I have the... No, I don't have the teacher's name noted in my notes. Yeah, I don't see anything about the teacher's name. They just kind of said, yeah, this teacher doesn't exist in our canon.
Well, okay, he is Mr. Toddler. So, Mr. Toddler, purveyor of babies, wants him and Kat to do a report on family and relationships. So they pretend to be married over the weekend. And again, like I alluded to, Kat has a great idea on how to make this report more realistic. Add a baby! Why not? What could go wrong? They watch this kid named Joey for the weekend, and other Rangers rib the crap out of him. Joey then makes a stinky, and everyone, including Tommy, tries to leave, but Kat stops him and says, "Where do you think you're going, Dad?" And like I said, at this point, JDF was already a father in real life. How do you feel about...
Was he actually a father in real life?
I believe he was actually a father when Green with Evil started.
I don't know about that.
Which it doesn't really... I'm not going to stop the episode just to, double check that, but I have heard that.
No, you're right. So, yeah, no, he was married from 94 to 2001 and has 3 children with her. And then in 2002, he remarried and has 1 daughter. Yeah. And that's the daughter that we always hear about in Jenna.
Yeah.
And Frank's first son, Jacob, had appeared in the Ninja Encounter.
Yep. I remember, I think I had a note about that for that episode. So, how do you feel about Tommy kind of getting put in a situation like this? Because I know that he is everybody's favorite Ranger on this podcast. So, man, we just really hate seeing him have to suffer through such hardship, don't we?
I would be asking for a divorce from Kat right away for bringing a real child to a class project.
Like that. How do you back out of something like that? Because it's like, hey, look, I've already done this and I didn't consult you on it whatsoever. Here, have fun. Like, you can't. I'm sorry, I'm gonna use kind of a curse word for this, but like, if Tommy were to back out of like taking care of a kid when Kat's already made arrangements with the kid's father or their parents, Tommy would come off looking like one of the biggest assholes. You know what I mean? So he's kind of stuck with this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you're not a Tommy fan and you just really wanted to see him miserable, man, this is your episode. So Joey starts crying, and of course the Machine Empire, they just got to peep on everything, and they notice how loud Joey is, and they say, we should weaponize that. As a matter of fact, when I wrote that, I realized I kind of want to make some Power Rangers villains shirts that's just like Lord Zed or like the Big Bad, and it's just like, do you do blank? We can weaponize that, because that's just how Power Rangers works. And they decide to make his crying unbearable for the entire Earth. His sound waves can be used for destruction, but then on top of that, they also send down a monster called Boo-Hoo the Clown. And he just kind of... What does Boo-Hoo the Clown do?
Boo-Hoo the Clown is a monster.
Yeah.
And he's a clown.
Uh-huh.
And was Clank's idea, because Clank is apparently wonderful with children. And the plan was to enhance the frequency and amplitude of baby Joey's voice to make the sound waves extremely destructible. So every time Joey would cry, the place would just fall on itself.
It would basically turn into the earthquake scene from Day of the Dumpster.
Probably, yeah.
Whenever he cried.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so Billy offers to help out, and yada, 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 things happen. Joey winds up getting kidnapped, and Billy's already kind of taken a sample of like the audio waves that Joey gave off and how it matches... I forget exactly what it was he was matching up against, but I had a note in here. I could have sworn. But, yeah, Billy states that he won't be able to track Joey until he cries again because of, just the nature of things. But then Alpha just winds up finding out where he is anyways, and he's at the power plant. And so the Rangers go to the power plant, where the plan is to weaponize Joey to destroy the power plant and then, like, lay waste and destruction to the city, which is kind of a smart idea. I'm not going to lie. And he starts crying because the bottle that's given to him is empty. What did you think about the fight scene here and, like, what the COG or the Machine Empire's plan was to weaponize said baby?
I mean, if my baby wouldn't stop crying, I would weaponize it too against my enemies. It's like, all right, you don't want to stop crying? Go annoy these people, and then tire yourself out.
Oh God, my child won't stop crying. Okay, well, let's weaponize him against North Korea. Let's just get it done.
Nah, I would weaponize it against my neighbors who tick me off. But so.
Pretty you are.
Hey, you want to sick your dog on me? I want to have my kid cry at you.
Fair enough. So, and I mentioned this before the show. It looks like Joey was cast. They were asking, hey, we need an Asian baby for this, because they do use Sentai footage of the O-Ranger equivalent, which also happened to feature a baby. So I guess for the 2 seconds that they used the Japanese Sentai baby, they wanted to match that up, I guess, even though it kind of doesn't matter. But I wanted to tell you what the episode title was for the O-Ranger. Are you ready for this?
What?
It's called Explosion, a Baby.
Fantastic.
And they use like 3 exclamation points for explosion and only 1 for a baby. So one's more exciting than the other. They save Joey, and then the Zeo Megazord comes out and they fight. And holy crap, Boohoo just transforms in the middle of this fight and just becomes extremely terrifying. And they lay waste to him, but good God, that thing looked like it looked like something out of It to me. Why didn't they just go with that for like the majority of the fight then? Or like, was that supposed to be like a Jack in the Box kind of surprise thing? I don't know.
I wouldn't know.
So anyways, obviously the Rangers win. Joey gets back to normal. And Kat and Tommy wind up getting an A on their project. And their teacher then says, hey, can you babysit my twins this weekend? And Tommy gets roped into that, and the episode ends. Would you want to watch Twins after watching a literal screaming, like, earthquake-causing baby?
Nope.
Because that's your weekend. That's Tommy's weekend.
Nope.
Yeah, I politely declined to. Those episodes were episodes 3, 4, and 5, I believe, with Zeo, and we've reviewed worse, I want to say.
Yeah, we've definitely reviewed worse.
Yeah. God knows I had a little more fun with this than the Christmas episode. So, yeah. Not... If you had to rank the first 5 episodes of Zeo, how would you give that as like a, hey, this is how I would feel going forward with the rest of the season? Like, how do these first 5 episodes feel to you?
Negative 6,722. No, I'm just kidding. Shooting Star is whatever. Target Rangers is a little better. For crying out loud, for better or for worse is actually a little bit better as well.
Yeah.
It's just you're setting it up essentially.
Yeah.
So you're still you have 50 episodes. We've done 5, so it's like you still got like a ways to go.
Yeah, 45 episodes left in the season. Anything could happen at that point, and it's like there could be worse starts, I feel, to a season. But that's just me. But anyways, did you have anything else you wanted to bring up about the episodes, or should we start wrapping up?
Let's wrap up.
All right, fantastic. So, Mike, where can people find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at TheLindenbaum75, Facebook at facebook.com/X75Productions, Twitch at twitch.tv/TheMichaelX75, and of course everything's on the website, txhthockey.com, and for the show specific, txhthockey.com/X75Productions/VFTG, and Twitter is at VFTG_PR.
Fantastic. As for myself, you can find me on TikTok at Blue Ranger B-Rye. You can find me on Twitter at One Drunk Geek, where I will retweet and talk to the gang from VFTG all the time, bring up different things about news, toys, what have you, and hopefully I will have some kind of Power Morphicon report that I can use to kind of supplant things once I eventually go, but again, it's still June. You can also find me on CastfolkStudios.com with all the boys there, doing the beer review show, and also we're planning on doing Inspired Lunacy again. Please check that out. Support the show, and also support X75 Productions. And with all of that, I just want to go ahead and leave you by saying, until our next more phenomenal episode, be sure to grab your Zeonizers and your Zeo crystals.
And may the power protect you.